you were all watching the interview, and I'm curious what your takeaways were from the interview. Anything jumped out at you? Because we're talking about someone that, according to the polls, may very likely resume the presidency of the United States soon, which would very likely put him back in a position of being the most powerful man on the planet in terms of politics, military power, and control. And I think this was an opportunity to have a look at him like we don't often see. So I'm just curious what your takeaways were.
Well, for me, right off, your relationship was clear, that you had a relationship with him, that you could talk to him in a way a lot of people may not be able to. And that chemistry matters. You know, Jung, the famous psychologist, once said that no two people are the same after interaction. So we had to watch for that. And we could see when he understood that you were not there just to excoriate him and just go after him, that he made a good eye contact with you and started to pay attention and was like, okay, somebody gets what I'm saying at least.
All right, well, let's take a look. We have a clip of what you're pointing out.
You know, it was interesting when you called the other day about doing an interview. A lot of people want to do interviews, and I don't just agree to them very easily. But I've always had great respect for you. I watch your show, some of the real good ones. And
what do you see?
So if you watched him, we typically think when people are having an emotional thought, they look down and to their right, their eyes will go down and to the right. Think about the last wedding or funeral you went to, and that will happen. We see him do that when he's describing the problem, but as soon as he starts saying somebody of your stature, watch him raise his head and make eye contact and show respect. That's powerful. Mm-hmm. That means who else is going to do that?
Right. You know, my position, just so you know, going into this kind of interview is I'm not a gotcha interviewer. I've never been a gotcha interviewer. I want to give people a chance to tell their story, say what they want to say, and then ask questions that I think the viewer would want asked. And if they don't answer them, then I'm going to ask them again. And if they go off on a 4th of July speech, then I'm going to say, well, that was a nice speech. Now answer my question. I do want my questions answered, but I give them a chance to say what they want to say. But then, and I told him at one point, I want people to get to know you because you're always campaigning. I don't want you campaigning. I want you to talk to us as a father and a husband and an individual. We want to know who you are, because he's got a speech that he gives, a stump speech that he gives. We've heard that. We want to hear some other things. And he was willing to do that.
Yeah, it showed when he made eye contact with you. From that point on, I watched him throughout the entire interview. He cared what you thought, and that's important because it gives a person the opportunity to actually show you a human side as well.
Yeah, and by the way, I have an invitation to President Biden to do the same thing. I have an interview scheduled with RFK Jr. For week after next to do the same thing. These are the 3 people that are involved. Maybe RFK Jr. as a spoiler, but he could swing this whole election one way or the other. So I'm talking to all the candidates that'll talk to me, so we'll see how that goes. Rod, what do you think?
Well, I wrote down 5 things, Phil. He is the toughest guy I have ever seen. I've tried cases, of course, and you're exhausted when you try a case as a lawyer. Just imagine if you're sitting there powerless, the client, the guy who's got the bullseye painted on him, your freedom's at stake, and you've got no control over what happens in the courtroom. You got a hostile judge, you think the jury's hostile, your lawyers may or may not be doing what you want them to do, and Trump and he's getting it from all sides. That was one of 5 cases. I mean, and he just goes forward full steam ahead. Second, he wears a bullseye, and he gets shot at because he's so formidable. I mean, this guy is really a force. I mean, I said to somebody, you know, Phil kind of attended that interview as opposed to conducting it. And that's all you can do with a guy like Trump.
Well, we just signed professional bull riding here, and so I thought that was a warm-up for that.
Right.
Very good one.
3, he stays on message. He may wind around, but it's a familiar message, and he's going in the direction that he wants to go, trying to pull everybody with him. 4, he is a damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead guy. I mean, nothing gets in his way. He's going to go where he wants to go. You may not like where he's going, but you know where he's going, and he's going as hard as he can. And last, this guy wants revenge so bad he can taste it, but he knows better. And Phil, after letting him run, as Phil did throughout that interview, finally said, I want to see if I can get you where I want you. Will you take it back? Will you not be a vengeful president if you win? And he said, yes, I'm okay with that. That was really powerful. I hope he can stick to it.
What do you think about the revenge point?
You know, Dr. Phil, I love to watch interviews, and I love to watch masterful interviews, and I'm always watching how the interviewer is getting to that information. I thought that this was the part of your interview that I just found fascinating, and I watched it over and over again. You literally laid out, okay, I am now going to ask you about retribution and revenge. I mean, you just put it out there to him. And I knew it was important to you because you literally came at it 4 different times. You kept coming. The first time you said, okay, what if? What if you just said, enough is enough? We're going to stop it now. And his response was, I'm okay with that sometimes. I'm sure in certain moments I wouldn't be. You know, and then he kind of went off, and then you came in the second time. And your second time was, every situation needs a hero. You're in a position to be the hero. Do you want to do that? Will you step up? You're like constantly giving him that opportunity. And this time he kind of dodged and he said, I think you'll be impressed. We need to unite and save the country. And then the next one you came in, I mean, you were obviously prepared as you always are. You said, you know, there's research right now that revenge in this country is an addiction. We are literally feeding off it, and you could stop that cycle. And this time he said, well, you know, revenge is a strong word. Maybe we can have revenge through success. And then your last one, which I loved, was this quote from the Pope that I thought was so good. We are all brothers and sisters. Forgiveness is necessary. Otherwise, what will follow is not justice, but revenge. And then you followed up with, you don't have time to get even. You only have time to get it right. And he kind of pulled back again. He said, well, it does take time. And then he said, and I give him credit for this. He just said it to you. Sometimes revenge can be justified. So I have to be honest, you know, sometimes it is. And then you said, but is the country better or worse for them going after you? And it was very interesting to watch him. It was almost like he was thinking out loud as it was going on. And I wanted to ask you, because being in there is so different than just watching it. What were you feeling from him as you were working through this? What were the feelings you were getting from him, and how do you feel he actually ended up at the end of that?
Well, I thought there was a shift in the interview where he became very reflective, where he, you know, when I asked him why, you always talk about what you're doing. Why are you doing it? Is the cost to your family too much? And at that point, I thought things shifted, and he started getting, you know, really honest. And, you know, it kind of scared him at one point when he said, hey, I've seen you do this before. You know, just,
I know he called you on it.
Yeah.
He's like, you break people down. You're not breaking me down.
Yeah, and I said, I don't want to. I'm just asking you the questions. And I think when he had to admit the country wasn't better off with them going after him, so it won't be better off with him going after them. And at that point, I think it landed with him, and I think he understood. And this is a process. This is a process. I think I think it's something that you don't just flip a switch and it changes like that. I think it's a process. It's a matter of who's in his ear and what they're talking about. But I think it was a quantum shift for him to even consider anything other than, you know, full speed ahead, get the bastards.
Yeah, I think that shows when he's talking to you, because he makes good eye contact, and you can see that he has to process. And only you were there with all your mirror neurons and that in the room can feel what you're feeling. But what we could see from out here is he makes eye contact, and it matters to him what you think, and that's important.
Yeah, I thought he made a shift, and we talked afterwards off camera and stuff, and he hears it. I mean, I think he honestly hears it. And do I think he's cured of his addiction to revenge? No, I don't. But I think for a single sit down, I think he made a major shift in his thinking. And look, he's not a dumb guy. And I think he understands, look, people don't want you running your own agenda. We want you running our agenda. And it's not you playing gotcha. And I think he'll understand. I think that will stick with him. It doesn't mean he doesn't need hit again, hit again, hit again, hit again. And I think people around him are studying this interview very carefully. And if they're smart, I think the messaging will change.